Best of r/Tales from Retail episode 50. This is my first time posting, so please bear with me. This week has been bitterly cold here in Canada, so the small family-owned store I work at has had slow sales. My co-worker and I had been sitting, mostly chatting for about 2 hours because we simply had no customers and had finished our cleaning duties, etc. The store officially closes at 6. But due to the lack of customers we turned the sign to closed at about 5:53. We were still in the store with the lights on, and we were finishing the closing procedures. During this time no one approached us. Once we were done, I look at my phone and it says 5:59, so I think it's okay for us to leave. I'm the store manager, so I'm allowed to make these decisions. We set the alarm, and we start heading out the door when a lady comes out of nowhere and approaches us yelling, "It's not even 6 yet." We try to stay calm and politely say I'm sorry. We got through closing procedures quickly because sales were slow. She latches onto that comment and says, "Well, if you're gonna close at 5:45 you should put your closing hours as 5:45 and not 6 o'clock. We were baffled at this screaming lady, so we just apologized even though it was 6 by now, and she has the audacity to say, "Well, I just want to buy the insert product name," and she keeps looking at the door expectantly as if we're gonna open just for her. Again, we apologize and tell her we can't open the store as all the systems have been shut down. She proceeds to yell, "You guys are very rude and I'm gonna write a bad review." Minutes after this all happened, she writes the following 1-star review. "I tried to go to this store at 5:45 p.m. when the store closed at 6 p.m. according to the door sign and the website. The cashiers were walking out and refused to sell me what I came for. Hard to find parking. Service was rude. They should post that they close at 5:45 if they close at 5:45 p.m. and not turn people away." The review is obviously a lie. She did not get to the store at 5:45. I was furious, to say the least. I immediately wrote to the store owners to let them know, and they were understanding. The problem is, they left the reply to the comment up to me. I have yet to reply, and I'm debating whether to say something like, "Oh, thanks, we'll look into it," and ignore the comment, or go full on, "We have security footage to prove that you are, in fact, lying," but more politely of course. What say you, Reddit? Thank you. Next. So, I work in a popular store that also buys cell phones. Our corporate overlords have recently decided that all employees must get a certain amount of quotes on how much we give a customer for their phones. No big deal, easy enough. So the other day I'm talking to a guy and I mentioned that we do take phones in trade as well, offering cash for them. He lights up, telling me he did have a phone he could trade in. I think it's great. Get my quota out there. So I ask him what kind of phone he has in mind. Actually, you won't believe how I got this phone. I ask him how, getting a weird feeling suddenly. Okay, so this guy came to my house the other day. He was drunk and didn't leave when I asked him to twice. Okay, so I call the cops to come and get him. Then when they left I found his phone on the grass. I pause. Wow. You should really turn that into the police. But like, they saw it when they got him. They said, "Hey, there's a phone on the ground." Right, single quotation mark. I mentally sigh. In all honesty, they probably thought it was your phone. But, they left it? Sir, I would recommend that you turn that into the police. Or at least give them a call, as if the man claims that you stole his phone that night there will be no protection for you. I didn't say it, but the fact he's trying to keep it now shows he is attempting to steal it anyway. He leaves, though, looking disappointed in our transaction. You know, maybe corporate will forgive me for not letting that trade go through. Thank you. Next. I arrived to work half an hour after this happened, so this is all recollections from my co-workers. I work in a moderately busy retail store in a relatively good area. One day, a lady walked into our store just shopping around and trying on clothes in our fitting room. The lady uses the family fitting room, the very big one near the entrance of the fitting room. The lady goes fully nude, walks out the room and asks the associate working there about items. Fully nude still. When cleaning the room, the associate found syringes on the ground. The lady was 100% taking heroin from how she was talking and acting. As this was happening, the associate most likely told the managers what was going on, as we used radios to communicate with one another. Multiple associates and the managers were following the lady until she left our store. The managers called the police and followed her out of the store as they believed she stole one of our purses. The lady went next door to the dollar store. She apparently grabbed items there and ran off back into our store. When she went back into our store, she had a yelling match with my managers and dropped all the items she stole from the dollar store, also the purse she took from our store. She ended up running off to a furniture store near our place. The police came and took statements minutes later. I walked in the store all confused when all this was happening. Before my shift started, one of my co-workers was telling me about the lady. I was kinda bummed I missed everything messed up about wanting to see something like that. When I went on the floor, I went back to the warehouse. At the same time, she ended up coming back to our store, so I completely missed everything. Thank you. Next. On mobile. Format blah blah. Sorry. Should have used a throwaway, because this is the story of the week at my job right now. I work at a sub/ice cream shop, and last week we had a DoorDash order that including a bowl of soup, one chocolate cookie out of a 3-pack, and a chocolate malt. Under the chocolate malt had a note that said, "No whipped cream on malt, severe allergy. Put flat lid on cup." Okay, what's the allergy? That's weird. It was a sucky shift and the DoorDash driver had been waiting some time for us, so I made the malt real quick and handed it off. I didn't put whipped cream on it, but I also didn't put a flat lid on it as that isn't the kind of cups that we carry. About 5 minutes before switch shift my boss gets a call. I'm sitting next to her. At one point I even hear my boss say, "Excuse me, did you just tell me my employee spit your drinks?" Apparently, she tried to get a refund from DoorDash because the lid I gave her wasn't a flat lid, and she started talking about how she's been there before and an employee spit in her drink. I can promise no employee of ours would ever do that. DoorDash wouldn't refund her, so she started harassing us. After my boss gets off the phone with her, all the kids crowd her to let her know they know this woman. She comes in sometimes and gets a malt with a flat lid to feed to her cat. What? She came in a few weeks prior, had a decent transaction. They asked if she wanted her receipt and she said no. They threw it. She changed her mind. They grabbed her receipt out of top of garbage and asked if that was okay. She said that was fine, until the receipt touched her hands. Then she wanted her entire meal refunded. She then tells my boss we have 24 hours to refund her money from DoorDash, otherwise she's blowing up our social media. Cool. She calls later that night again to harass my employees some more. This woman then tells an employee to go to hell, while recording their conversation on her flash drives to give to the health inspector. FKA nuts. After that phone call, said employee was crying, and they received another call. I just found out about this call last night. They handed the woman off to another employee to try to get her name and number at least, so we could try to settle this. AMD, she goes on to threaten the company and say she's going to hack into our main computers and burn the place down. I'm actually really mad that they didn't call the police after that phone call. Thank you. Next. You know how they always say never say no to a customer in retail? Well, there was a time where I was actually able to get away with telling a customer number. Well, kind of. This is from when I was working for a big box electronics company that was in the process of going bankrupt at the time and was closing its stores. I was the person in charge of processing returns. Want to know what one of the first things that happen when a store is in the process of closing? It stops taking returns. The receipt printers would print this on the receipts, and the cashier would either write all sales final or highlight the no return on the receipts. So since I was in charge of dealing with returns at a store that was no longer taking returns, you can imagine what my workload did. So I spent my time wandering the store, helping where I could with what I could. One day I found myself at the customer service desk, dealing with a customer who wanted to, return something. I think it was some car accessory gizmo, but I don't remember. I just remember that it was sold for $28.20. Yeah, I know. My brain remembers some crazy pointless things. Anyway, his receipt had it written in red magic marker, no returns on it. So cue a 10-12 minute conversation that went something like, him, I want to return this. Me, I'm sorry sir, but we're no longer accepting returns. Him, why not? Me, because the store is closing. Him, but I want to return this. Me, I'm sorry sir, but we're not accepting returns anymore. Him, but I drove down here to return this. Me, I'm sorry sir, as it says on your receipt we are not accepting returns anymore. Him, but I need to return this. Me, I'm sorry sir, but we are no longer accepting returns. Him, why not? Me, because the store and company are closing. All sales are final. Him, but I bought it last week so I'm in the returns period. Me, yes sir, you would be in the returns period if the company were accepting returns and were undertaking normal operations. But we are closing, so all sales are final as it says on your receipt. Him, but I need to return this. Me, I'm sorry, but all sales are final and we are not accepting returns. Him, but I want to return this. I think you can fill in the rest of the 10-minute conversation. With each repetition, this guy is getting just that little bit more pissed off as he is trying to gear to strong-arm his way into making us take a return. For the record, we were incapable of actually performing a return. The entire function had been disabled in the registers, so beyond taking the item, throwing in a corner and waiting for the inventory mismatch it would pop up as in 3 weeks, stealing $28.20 from a register and handing it to him, there was nothing we could do. So this isn't a case of we were choosing to not take a return or anything like that. Finally, the guy decides we've hit that magical point where he can get away with asking to see a manager and make the request to see the manager. While I was technically a supervisor and not a manager, I was emboldened by the reality of the store closing. I literally had 3 weeks left in the job, had no performance incentives, got paid by the hour, and already had my schedule for the next 3 weeks confirmed. I don't think it was possible to be fired at that point, so I opted to have some fun. I turned around right in front of him, clasped my hands behind my back, put on the fakest smile I could summon the energy to do, turned back around to face him and said, "Hello sir, I'm the manager. How can I help you?" In the absolute most obscenely brainwashed worker drone that has been trained to be cheerful and happy as they anatomically can be tone I could think of at the time. Dude turns tomato red and gets super pissed off. He starts screaming about calling corporate and getting me fired. Still having some fun with this, I pick up the phone and dial the corporate number, put it on speaker and crank the volume to maximum. "Hello and thank you for calling. Company name. We regret to inform you that company name will be closing its doors on date, but you can still cash in on some great deals. Be sure to check out our stores for closing deals on the latest hot tech. Be advised that all sales are final and we are not accepting any returns. Thank you for your business." Played over the speaker followed by a moment of silence before it repeated. The guy just gets more pissed and declares he was going to sue us and stormed out, leaving the item he wanted to return on the counter. Never did hear anything else from him. Thank you. Next. First time poster, so I apologize in advance and TLDR at the end. Backstory: I was a team lead of the cashiers at a popular outdoors store for a few years. This was one of many encounters with irrational customers. Relevant to this story, our store's return policy only allowed non-receipt or gift receipt returns to be refunded as store credit. This was displayed on each register for the customers to see as well as on the receipts. CS equals customer service cashier. AM equals angry man returning shoes. AMW equals angry man's wife. This occurred on a midweek evening and I was in the middle of stocking some items in the front of our store. CS calls me over to help her do a return. CS explains that AM wants to return a pair of $60-ish Nike shoes, but he doesn't want store credit for them. AM chimes in and says, "Someone bought me these shoes as a birthday gift, and I want to return them and get my money back in cash." I ask to see the receipts and he hands me a gift receipt. I explained the store's policy on gift receipts and that he could return his shoes, but he would only be getting store credit for them. He and his wife got angry and this conversation followed. AMW, where does it even say that? Me, right here on the bottom of the gift receipt you just handed me. AMW, well you should really tell people that when they check out. AM, I'm going out of town on vacation and I need cash. So you need to return them. Me, I'm sorry sir, but this is our store policy and I can only give you store credit. AM, why can't you give me cash? I don't get paid until Friday. Me, because we don't even know how the original purchaser paid for them. They could have paid with their credit card or even a gift card. This is ridiculous. That's a stupid policy. He argued a few more times about why he should be getting cash, but still decided to return the shoes, got them refunded on store credit and wrote "this is bull" on the store copy of the return receipt. TLDR, man got angry because he wanted cash for a gift receipt return because he was going on vacation and didn't get paid until Friday. Thank you. Next. This story took place a few years ago when I used to work at a big chain supermarket. This supermarket used to have different specials each week that were only on special if you had a loyalty card. The tickets would be clearly marked and had two prices on them, the normal price and the loyalty card price, but that didn't stop customers without the cards from claiming they should have it at the discounted price. It was policy to ask every customer if they had a loyalty card. After ringing up this particular customer, I asked her if she had one and she replied number. After she paid, I had moved on to serving the next person. However, this customer was standing there reading through every item of the receipt until she found something that was wrong. As I am midway serving the next person, she butts in. "Customer, you charged me the wrong price for this item. It should be on special." Me, "Alright, let me price check it." I price check the item, and surprise, it is an item that is only on special if you have the loyalty card. Me, this item is only on special for people with a loyalty card. Just as I say that, she goes into her wallet and pulls out a loyalty card and goes, "Here it is." Me, "Sorry, but the transaction has already gone through. I can't scan it now." Customer, "Why didn't you ask me for my card?" At this point, I was annoyed and I admittedly replied back a bit aggressive. Me, "I did tell you. I asked if you had a loyalty card and you said no." Customer, "Yeah, but I am happy to say this story did have a happy ending." Just as she was about to argue on, the next customer in line, who I was mid-serving, yelled at her, "He asked you if you had one and you said you didn't. Stop arguing and move on." She finally admitted her defeat and left after that. I made sure to thank the next customer for that.